3 to 4 plus grams to yield the same benefit that you would get out of 1 milliliter of this stuff. But fortunately, this stuff is actually dosed at 500 milligrams a milliliter, so you only need to pin 1 milliliter of it. So you could, what I do technically, what's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be talking about injectable L-Carnitine. There we go. Injectable L-Carnitine is something that I have started to really take seriously over the past couple months or so. And, you know, it's more so that I was under the impression it was this overhyped supplement in the industry and it, you know, did next to nothing. The oral bioavailability was shit. And, you know, I knew it had some fat loss properties as it was always, you know, sold as an injectable preparation on some, more, I don't know, risk tolerant websites that were, willing to sell it in an injectable format. But the problem was it was always dosed so low per milliliter that it was impossible to keep up with a daily regimen that would have justified its use. Like you need to be using, you know, like 400 to 600 milligrams of this stuff, and it was coming in like 200 milligram per milliliter solution. So I was like, am I going to be doing a deep intramuscular pin on a daily basis with 2 to 3 milliliters? Fuck no. So there was like no point of me even digging deeper. And then some people who I refer to for my own, you know, going back and forth about pharmacology, bodybuilding, health optimization, whatever, that kind of stuff. I started to find out a lot of people are actually using it and getting really good results with it. Like not just from a fat loss context, but they're also using it to upregulate AR content in the muscle. So this is something I dug into after, you know, speaking to them about it more. And it turns out that, this is something I've talked about a few times at this point, is L-Carnitine is one of the only like non-hormonal things you can use that significantly upregulates androgen receptor density in the muscle itself. So largely what boils down to you making progress or not is, you know, there's obviously peripheral activity that has nothing to do with the AR, and there's different satellite receptors that are interacted with anabolics and whatnot. But the main biological target of these compounds is the androgen receptor. And they're designed to have a certain binding affinity and, you know, bind to it, transcribe gene expression and whatnot in target tissues. But carnitine, it's not an anabolic. It's not, you know, GH that causes hyperplasia. It's nothing of the sort. It simply seems to increase AR content itself via non-hormonal means, which is really interesting and presents an interesting scenario for bodybuilders that may be able to leverage it, or just guys interested in improving their body composition, obviously, where you can essentially milk more progress out of the same dose of anabolics without having to exert, you know, a higher dose, a higher stress, a higher burden of androgens on your body that you would have otherwise needed to yield the same result. So you can basically milk more out of less, and you can make a TRT protocol with a therapeutic replacement amount go a lot further for you than you would otherwise. Or if you're blasting, make your blast go a lot further for you. So I still didn't take it that seriously until I had some people that I really trust tell me that it actually makes a difference. And the difference in like a guy taking TRT versus a guy taking the same dose of TRT with L-Carnitine, pinning almost every single day, it's like substantial. So, you know, obviously for me, anything that has to do with not using more gear, but getting better outcomes that have, you know, different pathways that aren't attributed to, you know, like pro-inflammatory, pro-aging, pro-whatever, like I'll look at it seriously. And with carnitine, as far as pro-inflammatory too, one thing I should note is that one of the concerns with it is the metabolism to TMAO in the body, which is something that is potentially pro-inflammatory and gonna be bad for you down the line. But it seems like the advantage of pinning the L-Carnitine is that you're actually able to significantly bypass this process that would otherwise occur during oral ingestion. This is sort of where the risk of, you know, like red meat consumption comes in, or oral L-Carnitine usage. So personally, from what I've seen, it seems like oral L-Carnitine still does work. It just has horrible bioavailability, so you need to ingest like 3 to 4 plus grams to yield the same benefit that you would get out of 1 milliliter of this stuff. But fortunately, this stuff is actually dosed at 500 milligrams a milliliter, so you only need to pin 1 milliliter of it. So you could, what I do technically is, well, it's not technically, it's what I literally do, is I use a 1/2 inch insulin pin and I just bury it so that I don't have to actually use a harpoon ever. Like I haven't used an actual like 1 inch deep pin for years because I don't blast anymore. And one of the main reasons I wouldn't use carnitine before is because 200 milligrams a milliliter, I'd need to be pinning 2.5 milliliters to get this dosage, which would then require me to use like a 1.5 inch pin and get really deep in the glute to prevent significant amount of lumping. For me though, with 1 milliliter of this, now I don't advise you do this first of all because it's 1/2 inch is not deep enough for most people. And when I say like I bury it, like I literally put the 1/2 inch in and then I like push it in more to make it like an inch. So I don't recommend doing that though. Usually once you get over 1/2 milliliter in an insulin pin, you start to get into like lumping danger territory. So just keep that in mind. And I also use a 1/2 inch insulin pin, which is bigger than the insulin pins that some guys are using for the sub-Q injections. So anyways, that's of note. But anyways, carnitine, something that a lot of people don't know too, is for a fertility aspect, it stacks up against Clomid in fertility trials actually pretty significant, pretty damn well. Even though it's a different mechanism of action, its actual target endpoints are similar, which is, you know, something that a lot of people are shocked when they hear that it's actually a potent thing to stack with your fertility protocol and can make a very, very big difference at the end of the day on if you are successful or not. So if I ever need to delve into a fertility protocol, it's probably going to involve carnitine. Now, why I'm using it in particular right now is to leverage the fat loss component as well as potentially the upregulation of AR content. So as far as my protocol in particular, and frankly, I'm not trying to like, it sounds like, oh, you're trying to, you know, what are you trying to blast, Derek? Like you're trying to grow some muscle here? No, if I was trying to blast, I'm in a steep deficit right now because it's summer. If I was trying to gain muscle and take advantage of this, I would be eating more. And the only way I would gain is if I ate more. Like I'm in too steep of a deficit to gain right now for how advanced of a lifter I am, I guess. So like I'm probably at like 600 calorie deficit right now on therapeutic replacement amounts of TRT. So for me, you know, how much more muscle retention can you really get out of the upregulated AR content? It's like you either have if I have 100% muscle retention on therapeutic TRT, it's not like I can get 110% muscle retention. Like I'm just going to retain the same amount. So even though I'm, you know, technically on paper, the two main benefits are the fat loss and the AR content, the main thing I'm actually getting out of it is the fatty acid mobilization and kind of getting potentially better body composition outcomes than I would otherwise during this cutting phase. So I'm using it before fasted cardio and occasionally here and there pre-workout as well with my pre-workout meal. As far as what my protocol is specifically, so basically what I'm doing is more or less boils down to just like a milliliter of this prior to fasted cardio, intramuscular, 45 to 60 minutes prior to fasted cardio in the morning, or I'll do it pre-workout with my pre-workout meal. And this both are kind of the optimal times to pin it in my opinion, whether your goal is enhancing muscular recovery and growth or fat loss. Those are kind of like the target points for administration in my opinion. Obviously it's still going to work if you pin it other times. I'm just saying like for the goals specifically I have, those are where it makes the most sense to pin, like especially like before the fasted cardio an hour beforehand. That's kind of where I'm pinning it the most. And then here and there, if I feel like it, I'll pin it pre-workout as well. And those are on separate days. Like I typically do 1 day on, 1 day off at the gym. So when I'm going to the gym, I might, if I feel like it, I'll pin it, you know, before the gym with my pre-workout meal. If it's an off day, I'm doing fasted cardio on the off days, then I'll pin it 60 minutes before the fasted cardio, as well as my other stuff I use for fat loss. Mainly, I try to keep it simple. I try to not burden myself too much with stimulants, even though they're very effective. So I'll use an alpha-2 adrenergic antagonist like Rauloxime, which is also known as alpha yohimbine, and I prefer it way more than normal yohimbine. It doesn't make you feel like you're going hypoglycemic or going insane. Whereas yohimbine is literally intolerable to the point that you feel like you just pinned like 10 IUs of Humalog on an empty stomach sometimes. Like, I don't know what it is about yohimbine, but it's too much. not in potency aspect, just in a side effect context. So Raulosign seems just as effective, if not significantly more effective than yohimbine at fat loss, and it doesn't make you as fucking insane, which is great for me. If I was trying to maximize fat loss, I would also incorporate probably like a beta 2 adrenergic agonist as well as caffeine. You know, obviously no brainer to add in there. And I'll sometimes add caffeine with my Raulosign as well. I'd probably do like 1 to 1.25 IU of GH an hour beforehand, 1 to 2 hours beforehand, depending on how I'm administering it. Obviously, there's other pathways that can be leveraged, PPAR delta. With cardarine, you could do, you know, chemical uncouplers, you know, exogenous T3. There's a lot of things that can be used to leverage other avenues of fat loss. But for me, personally, I don't, you know, I'm kind of, I'm not trying to get stage ready here. I'm just trying to get summer lean for a reasonable body fat percentage. And to do that, I don't really need more than Raulosign, some caffeine, and the injectable L-Carnitine is something interesting that I am starting and hoping I get some good outcomes out of it. And I'm also really interested in flavonoids and cyclic AMP stimulants right now too, that I'm experimenting with for supplement formulation and whatnot. So I've been experimenting with something called naringin, as well as hesperidin, forskolin, and some other spices that are purported to be useful adjunct fat loss aids, like 6-paradol and some other stuff I kind of want to test out. And I'm basically trying to come up with some like straight edge fat burners that actually do something based on clinical research. So we're going to see how I do with that. That's stuff I'm experimenting with right now. And if I could come up with a good synergistic combination of some of this stuff, I'll probably release a turnkey formula. If it's going to be useful, like, I'll put it out. If not, then I won't. But if I do put it out, it's going to be a combination of anything that I have tried that I felt like actually did something. So that is kind of where I'm at with the fat loss stuff. I also take Metformin Xr, which I talked about in my HRT unboxing video. Basically that helps kind of set up my next day for better fat loss outcomes, because it kind of like improves insulin sensitivity to the point where I'm way more insulin sensitive when I wake up, and then I can hit fasted cardio in a more optimal state for fatty acid mobilization, burning up, blah, blah, blah. I'll sometimes incorporate berberine complex with hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin as well for like dealing with really heavy carb dense meals on like a cheat day, for example. I'll pop at least 500 milligrams of that. But other than that, that's basic. Other than that, that's like quite a few things. But I mean, as far as what I do for fat loss, those are the things I feel have good efficacy in terms of their outcomes. And yeah, honestly, that's kind of it. So take from that what you will. If you're going to use carnitine, like I think 300 milligrams to 500 milligrams is kind of like, I wouldn't go any less than 300 personally. 500, like, I'm just lucky that this stuff is compounded at such a high concentration, so I don't have to pin more than a milliliter at a time, because at that point I wouldn't even bother using it personally. But yeah, my fat loss protocol is more or less like 1 milliliter of carnitine, around like 3 milligrams of Raulosign, maybe like 200 milligrams of caffeine. And, you know, I'd probably throw in, like, if I really wanted to crank things up, I'd throw in like ephedrine or clenbuterol, or, you know, some GH fasted. That would kind of, you know, really push things. But I don't need to push it that far personally, so I kind of just stick with the basics. Not that carnitine injected is basic, nor is Raulosign. It's kind of an obscure compound, but I think it is a dark horse supplement that actually goes overlooked. And we're going to be carrying it through Gorilla Mind, because this is something that I use often, and I feel like goes super overlooked. And I feel like it's way more potent than yohimbine with less side effects. So I don't know why more people don't talk about it. It's always in pre-workouts, but it's terrible as a pre-workout agent, because it doesn't make you focused, really. It doesn't make you feel good. Like, it's basically like a less shitty feeling yohimbine that's more potent, probably. That's like the best way I can describe it. But it's certainly not something that gets you like in the zone, locked in when you're working out. It's like a terrible focus stimulant, in my opinion. But it's great for fasted cardio for fat loss. So that's where it would be leveraged. And that's why I'm not going to include it in our, it's like a make or break ingredient for some pre-workouts. It's like, you know, almost like the beta alanine of the stimulant world. There's like yohimbine and rauloxime. You either like love it or you fucking hate it. And a lot of people hate it, including myself. So, you know, for fasted cardio, it's good. Pre-workout, not so much in my opinion. But yeah, like I'm in a deficit and I've been on therapeutic TRT for a while. I'm not really like reading into the AR content upregulation too much because I'm not really expecting a whole lot when I'm not eating enough to grow. But, you know, if I can milk more out of my minimal usage and, you know, get more bang for my buck, like by all means, that's going to be a welcomed fringe benefit of this. So that's what I'm using L-carnitine, how I'm using L-carnitine. If you want to check out this L-carnitine specifically, then you can check out my HRT clinic linked in the video description below. It's in the medications list, and if you're interested in it, you can add it to your wish list, at which point a patient care coordinator would reach out to you and then, you know, discuss your needs based on your blood work and or medical history. And then from there, get connected to our doctor over FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, whatever's convenient for you from the comfort of your own home, and proceed with whatever protocol may be warranted to optimize your health and goals and whatnot. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. Also, if you want to support the channel, Gorilla Mind Nootropics and pre-workout formula. So we're going to be dropping a rauloxime product soon, as well as I am formulating fat burners, like I said. So the stuff I'm experimenting is some like beta test versions of the fat burners. So hopefully those turn out to be solid. I have a few different combinations on hand that I'm trying and I have high hopes for them. So if those turn out good, you can probably expect those within the next couple months as well. But yeah, as far as the main stuff, we have our Nootropics, which are obviously like flagships of the brand. Gorilla Mind Rush, Gorilla Mind Smooth. These are the best nootropics in the industry for focus, creativity, just overall cognitive enhancement. If you work, you know, long hours on a computer, or you have, you know, you study long hours, you need to cram for exams, you need to be creative for editing, whatever it is. These nootropics are the best in the industry for making sure you stay locked in for longer periods of time than you would otherwise be able to, as well as stay creative during that time frame. In addition, the pre-workout formula is obviously self-explanatory what those do. If you are interested in pre-workouts, I encourage you to just compare the label of your pre-workout to Gorilla Mode or Gorilla Mode Nitric. Gorilla Mode is the stimulant-based version of the pre-workout, and Gorilla Mode Nitric is the stimulant-free version, which both are top-notch in their class. In my opinion, there is no product that really stacks up to it on the market right now. And if you need to see how that is, just straight up fucking compare the label of whatever you have to ours, and you'll see pretty transparently why that is. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.